Oh, we got that live button. That's showtime. How about a little intro before we get going here?
This is your United States of America. Speak your mind. Cross the line now, say the truth. Low. Why don't you take it back? To be, not to be, it's not the question for you and me. It's a matter of life and death. This is the lesson to show you how to take the first step. This is your United States of America. Taking no care.
All right, hashtag Hamin Army. It is Thursday afternoon. Hey, how about this one for you? A little bit of a throwback Thursday. Back at it again. The reunion. Hashtag HTM Dem Boys. Yes, the Hitting the Marks crew is back on the Hamin Media Group. It is me at R to the B to the V, Richard Bronson Vickery. Hey, I wait for this for a long time. It's been a while. Yes, he is here, the good doctor. This is Jay, Michael Jargo. Welcome back to your show.
Thank you, Huckleberry. The Huckle has been buried. The fuse has been lit. I tried that in a small town, and they didn't do shit. What's up, Hamin Media Group? It's great to see y'all.
Hey, it is. So, just a week ago, Jargo, you were getting ready. You were packing up the car. You were heading down here to Cincinnati. We were hitting up Thursday night burger night. Of course, you're so very, very gracious and very supportive coming down to kind of, show some support. Be it if I needed anything last week, as we funeral services for my stepmother, who, after 2 years in the Cleveland Clinic, passed away. I wish it was under better circumstances, but it was always good to get to see and hang out. We have figured this out. We have been friends for 6-7 years. We've been doing this podcast thing.
God, it's been that long, hasn't it?
Yeah. What do we celebrated our 1 year podcasting together at the first, before there was an All Elite Wrestling, but at the very first All In.
It was a good time, man. That was a good time. I still think that's probably the coolest wrestling show I've ever been to. Not necessarily the best wrestling show I've ever been to, but probably the coolest, just because of the novelty of it, because of StarCast, that entire weekend. And then the show was awesome. So, I mean, how do you complain, right? It's just really cool that we were there. And now here we are, 5 years later? And AEW is here, and AEW seems to be going strong, getting a whole bunch of money from the Warner Brothers Discovery people. I mean, and to think we were there for that very, very genesis that was AEW. Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, you can talk about the unique environment there, and that's really what set it off. You had the StarCast convention, which we got to go be a part of. We were there on Pod Row. We got some great interviews out of that. Going into the show, we got to speak with Eric Bischoff. At the show, we had a great time talking on air with Diamond Dallas Page and everyone else. Just mingling around the convention center, taking in all the different meet and greets right there. The people that stopped by. Chase Owen spending most of the time at our booth playing the video game.
Playing Fire Pro Wrestling, you bet.
Playing Fire Pro, absolutely. But it's such, and outside of that, it was the first time that we had actually met. And we had others, Rivera, Will, so many people came together.
Boney.
Yeah, they came together from the Hamin Army. Yeah, we do got it. No, Ben. Ben is buried. He threw one out. He threw a swerve at me yesterday. I guess no pun intended, because we are going to talk about Swerve Strickland on this show. But he said, and he's got a lot going on. They are booming with Horseshoe Genetics. Things are taking off. And he said to me, he's like, man, I'm just under a lot of pressure with this stuff. I said, man, that's like a Chinese riddle. Reminded, how can I be passed out and high on crack run? Like, how can you have pressure in the weed business? Isn't that supposed to relax you?
Well, I mean, it depends on the strain, but I don't want to go all herbologist on you, but it depends on if you're doing a sativa, if you're doing an indica, if Miss Millie's trying to eat it, there's all kinds of different stuff that could happen.
I guess so, man. But they are doing big things, and anybody out there, everybody, weekly that tunes into any of the pods that Ben is on. Man, that dude is a straight hustler. There is no stop. There is no rest for the wicked, if you will, when it comes to Hamin. He is out there getting it done. He is determined and destined for greatness, and he is going to grab that. So giving Ben the day off here, which presented the opportunity, an opportunity to reach out to you, Jargo, as I'm going through, like, oh my God, who am I going to get here? Instead of calling the usual suspects, hoping you had an opening. You're here. The reunion is on, a little throwback Thursday, hitting the marks, back together again. And Jargo, we were talking about that first All In. I think this is pretty cool. We are a month away. It's going to be August 27th from that next All In, the big Wembley show for AEW.
Which is such a weird show, right? Because they've sold, like, do you have the number? It's something like, 65,000 tickets, something like that, for the show that they've announced, like, basically no matches for. The show, like, basically sold out. And by sold out, I mean they sold the number of tickets that were available. They're not going to pack Wembley Stadium, but you and I both know how this business works. It doesn't matter if you're doing it in a venue that'll hold 150,000 people. If your cap is 5,000 people and you sell those 5,000 tickets, they call it a sellout, even though you have all those empty seats. How do you feel about this? Because, I mean, we just had Forbidden Door. We're just coming off of Blood and Guts. We're only a couple of weeks away from All Out when we come out of All In. Like, I almost feel like this is going to be detrimental to the AEW product because there's just no build. Is this just going to be another series of, like, ridiculous quote unquote dream matches that we've already seen?
I know we're going to jump into this week's show. I was really surprised that we didn't get more focus and get some big announcement, something to, if you are going to open up more seats, or maybe to get people more intrigued behind this thing. One of the biggest problems with AEW, an amazing job what they have done already with the Wembley show. But is it, like you said, though, is that a testament to their product, to the in-ring excitement, or is it just the spectacle of the fans across the drink there? They are so hungry, so thirsty for a major event like this. It could have been anything, and they were going to eat those tickets up.
Now I'm seeing 74,000 is what they've sold, which is a lot more than I thought they'd sell.
That's damn impressive. I would try to do everything I could to get as many asses in those seats. Open up, if you got a paper, give it out, because this is, you want those visuals. This is a selling point for you. The dollars right now, to me, that's going to be secondary. This is put your best foot forward, show the world that you are big time, that you are ready to get at a level, compete with WWE. But on the flip side of that, we're looking at the great job they did at Wembley, but domestically, North America, they ain't moving shit.
So you know what we do? Let's add another AEW show that we can actually, poach our own audience a little bit more, and we'll just end up going back to Chicago every 6 weeks instead of every 9 weeks.
And I think that's the big problem is they, on their schedule, I mean, they're trying to run, in the WWE world, the premium live events, their pay-per-view schedule. I mean, and they give away so much. They just try to give away so much weekly on television that it's hard. I mean, they're spreading themselves too thin is the major case here. And now
it's the same thing that WWE did when they added SmackDown. It's the same thing WWE did when they added SmackDown. It's the same thing that WCW did when they added Thunder. All they're doing is oversaturating their product. How many hours of wrestling are there in North America now?
Oh my God. I mean,
up to about what, 15, 20 a week?
Almost every day of the week, all depending how far you want to go down into the bubble with the different promotions. But yeah, I mean, it makes it almost impossible to keep up with everything. And we regularly hear, oh, it's such an amazing time to be a pro wrestling fan or to be in the business. Well, is it? I see here locally in Cincinnati on an indie level, we have 8 promotions running here. And you're spreading out that fan base. You're making them choose. So what you ultimately ended up doing here, instead of having like a few top promotions that are highlighting the truly, elite talents there, no pun intended here again. There's a lot of talents out there, but there's not many stars. And that's what's drawing people in. So even here on a level like that, instead of having, back in the day where we had 2, maybe 3 promotions and they were all, getting 300, 400, 500 people on an indie show. Now, don't be surprised if there's under 100 people if you're wrestling in front of 25, 30, 40 people, because you're spreading them so thin. And now that's just magnified on a level of an AEW.
I do think that a lot of it too is like, if I think about it like the NBA, right? There's a bunch of really, really good role players, but there's a very, very limited amount of stars. And with the amount of basketball that goes on over the week, the amount of wrestling that goes on over the week, people want to see the stars. How many stars are there in professional wrestling here in the United States these days? Maybe a half a dozen. Between all these rosters, maybe a half a dozen people that I would actually consider to be a real superstar.
Well, it's here, and Zane, making a point, SmackDown was necessary, and I guess I can understand that in a certain context, because at that point, really all you had was your major promotions had one night of programming, or you had the secondary shows like the Sunday nights, but those were obviously from the get-go your B and C squad. Your talents. They were more similar to the old days of Wrestling Challenge and Wrestling Superstars that we saw back in the 80s and 90s. But when we saw the real expansion, WWE was just as guilty as this. They were like, oh, when we acquired all the properties of WCW and the properties of ECW, and now we've got all these talents signed. We need more. We need a broader spotlight to showcase them. In reality, though, yes, they had more talents to deal with, but just like you said, Jargo, how many of those were actual superstars? And they didn't go get the superstars, and that's why when we saw the invasion, it was another low point in the business, and a lot of people just were turned away from it.
Well, yeah, and they didn't have the WCW superstars, and this is no disrespect to Booker T, but Booker T was like the biggest name that first came in, right? Like, you didn't have the NWO, you didn't have Hogan, you didn't have Goldberg. I mean, all their like major stars just weren't available. They were sitting at home collecting their fat money from those Turner contracts. And who's to blame? The talents, right? I mean, I would have done the same thing if I was one of the talents. Oh, yeah. But that's why the invasion fell flat. They did it too early because they didn't have the superstars. If they would have waited to do the WCW invasion until either A, if Vince would have bought out those contracts, or B, waited until those contracts had expired and you could have actually done WCW versus WWE, that would have been really, really cool. Instead, we got, WCW Saturday Night versus Monday Night Raw. And of course it fell flat.
This is, French Pickleball way in with a good point here as well. When we talk about, the gates, and, he's saying for live events, he takes his family to watch where Ben's at. I think Frank usually goes to Immortal. And I think a bigger point he's saying here on the back end, why go pay to go to an event when you can sit at the comfort of your home? I mean, because you're talking, unless you catch them really dropping those tickets, but even on the back end of it, a family of four, just to get through the door, you find some cheap tickets, you're looking at $100. Then you got to get to wherever the arena is. You got to pay for the parking. They're going to hit you up for concessions when you get in there. So now you've turned sitting on your couch, with the comforts of your home, into a $200, $250 evening.
Well, it's like we here in Indianapolis, tickets for the NBA All-Star game went on sale yesterday. You could get tickets for $25. That puts you in the 600 section of the skills competition and whatnot, right? But when you really look at where those seats are, that's the 600 section of where the Colts play. It's at Lucas Oil Stadium. From the 600 section, I'm closer sitting on my couch than you're gonna be.
Especially with basketball.
Who cares how much the tickets are?
Right. Oh shit! Especially for basketball too. I mean that court.
Basketball court on a football field, and you're in the 600 section. You ain't gonna see shit.
Well, they do the Final Four. They've done Final Fours there, right?
Yeah, they have at Lucas Oil. You bet.
Yeah.
They didn't see anything from the 600 section then either. All you can say is you were in the building. That's that's literally all it is. You can say that you were in the building.
Well, speaking of going regularly, I've been to a handful of AEW shows. I've been obviously out. Let's bring him in here. We're going to do a little run in. I'll shoot him over the invite here, Jargo. But what the hell was I saying? Oh, but going to these today's big time shows, AEW, WWE, they've really lost their fan experience. There's nothing unique about it. I remember going back in the 90s and at Raw, they would have a legend, maybe nothing spectacular, but someone you recognize out there in the corridor interacting with fans. The merchandise tables, right? The AEW merchandise, if you've been to an AEW show, it is absolutely abysmal and embarrassing what the hell they
for a t-shirt company. You would think a t-shirt company would know how to sell t-shirts, right?
Well, I mean, they're not a t-shirt company. They just outsourced it. And I don't know how involved Pro Wrestling Tees gets with them on something like that. But honestly, I mean, she's a wonderful, wonderful lady. We got to meet her as we were talking about at StarCast at that first All In. But you got one of the Bucks' wife. Isn't she still running the merch?
Yeah, Dana, Mrs. Matt.
You're right.
That was a great interview. I really enjoyed talking to Dana. She was one of the most interesting people that we talked to that whole weekend. Just like how the Young Bucks built their business empire on t-shirts.
Yeah, but I mean, she did an amazing job at that level. But now we're talking big leagues here. We're talking a major sports franchise in AEW. And you look on the other side of that, the difference is where WWE just outsourced that to a true major merchandise company.
Right. But I mean, like, it's the same thing pretty much every show I go to, though, man. Like when you go to an NXT show, they'll have like 3 different t-shirts and everything else you've got to order online. I haven't been to a WWE show in God knows how long, although I think I'm going to one in September. It's just insane the amount of merchandise they do not carry. And this is one of those things that drives me nuts when I see people talk about these merch numbers. And Roman Reigns is selling more merch than everybody. Well, yeah, when you go to a WWE house show, there'll be like 8 different Roman Reigns shirts and 3 other t-shirts to choose from. So yeah, Roman Reigns is outselling everybody because, Daddy, I want a t-shirt while we're at the show. Oh, well, who's the most popular guy on the show? Oh, Roman Reigns. Yep, give me that.
No, absolutely.
And the other problem is most of them suck. Most of the wrestling t-shirt designs suck.
I did see a recent stat where the last quarter where they had released the top sellers. It's still in there in the top 5, Stone Cold Steve Austin and the NWO.
Yeah.
It won. True. It speaks to their star power, their lasting power. 2, as you just said, today's shirts suck. They're almost just like the wrestlers themselves, just the cookie cutter. You could replace one with the other. There is nobody unique about it. But you look at the Austin t-shirts across the board back then, especially the Classic 316. You look at the NWO shirts. We were just talking about the success of what the Bucks have been able to do, and that was with the Bullet Club. Those were cool-ass looking shirts. Especially with Bullet Club, a lot of people didn't even realize it had anything to do with wrestling. It was just a cool-looking shirt.
It's funny because Bullet Club is actually responsible for AEW. For those that don't know the story, was it the Dallas WrestleMania that the Hot Topic people went to, and they're looking around and they're seeing all these Bullet Club shirts, and they're like, "We want that in our store."
People are chanting Bullet Club.
Yeah, yeah. 1, 2, sweet. Yeah, and that whole like, they're looking around. They're like, "We want that in our stores," and WWE was like, sorry, that's not ours." And once Bullet Club broke through into Hot Topic, does AEW happen without that? I don't think it does.
Does it come in with the momentum, the enthusiasm, the backing that it does? I still think you get some kind of version of this thing, just simply because once you get to TK and he's got that money and he's living.
What you get is Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor. That's what you would have gotten.
Yeah. Well, you take that. I guess you're right, because that does start the snowball. Look at what we've been able to do here as a group. We did this. We shook the world. We've got people looking at us here. Then we ran all in ourselves. Now let's go to that next step. Let's really do it. I'll tell you what, though. Let's take this show to that next step. Or how about even this? The next level. Let's light the fuse on the next level. Let's welcome him in here, ladies and gentlemen. Just, us Joes ain't going to cut it this week. We need a pro. How about a little vet for you, baby?
Hello,
He's stalking
everyone.
me. That's what it is. He's stalking me every time. He like just tunes into every show that is on the internet, and he's like, "Is Jargo on this show? Is Jargo on this show? Oh, there he is. I have to get on this show. What's going on, Vet? How are you, my friend?
Are you complaining?
No, I'm not complaining.
Who wouldn't want all this as a stalker, right?
It's hilarious, man, because I'll just randomly get texts from the Vet and be like, "Hey, what you doing? We should do a show." How are things, man? How are things out there on the left coast?
Man, everything is super. It's awesome. Thanks for asking. How are you fellas doing on this fine day?
It's hot.
Yeah.
Very hot.
Yeah, it's hot.
It
just got hotter because here I am. So
we can turn it up the heat, baby. Yesterday, I jumped in, was helping one of my buddies out on a food truck. God, it was. I think we registered. It peaked out. It was like 147 degrees inside the truck. It was miserable. We had to actually tell the people, like, we need to take like a 5-minute break. Give us a minute. We had to, so we could just step outside.
That temperature shouldn't even exist.
Yeah.
That temperature shouldn't even exist. Is that why you look as red as the HMG logo?
Yes.
RBV?
Yes. I was going to, instead of the blue dot, I'm just going to cover my head up with the logo from now on. Don't even tell the difference. Dude, that's all the passion that I have, to be back on the air here.
I see that. Yeah, we missed you, man. We missed you. I've been keeping your seat warm for you on Mondays. I know you don't like to wake up early, but I am by no means a substitute or like a permanent substitute. I'm just a seat warmer. I'm just a seat filler, like at the Oscars. So, it's been fun.
We've been talking. I know you were listening in, but now it's time to chime in. We're talking about the oversaturated, just market just between WWE and AEW. Sure, they've got all these talents, but do they really have star power? That's what's lacking. I mean, why aren't people wanting to go to the arenas to actually watch this? Obviously, outside of Wembley, which has been magnificent for them, but here in North America, they're still struggling to put asses in seats.
Wrestling's not really cool right now. We are in the bubble to a degree, because it's up to us as pundits or analysts or hosts, whatever you want to call us, what we do here. It's up to us to be on top of what's going on in the industry and try to keep tabs on it, at least, so that we can talk about it for the people that want to listen to us talk about it, right? But out in the real world, a lot of people don't really care about wrestling. And if they do, it's the WWE, if anything, right? There's people that still just don't know that AEW even exists. And you just have to ask yourself, well, how often do you see the visibility of AEW in everyday life? Like how many like soft drink products are they on? Or how many billboards do you see like out in the world? Like what are the merchandising deals that they're making? I mean, they're doing some, but it's just not enough to reach a lot of eyes. And, maybe people don't even pay attention to it when they do see it. So I think that's a big deal. And it's hard to who creates a wrestling company from scratch and then just is automatically like at a competition level? The only people that even did that was, the Jarretts back in 2002, but that wasn't even close to competition level at that point, because you could argue that the WWE was on a high point and they were getting ready to slide in 2002, right? So TNA was not really competition, not only because of the lower visibility, not only because of the Bush League atmosphere, but the fact that you had to pay $10 a week to even see it. So like you're offering me a lesser product. Yeah, I mean, it's not like it wouldn't have been worth $10 some weeks, but at the same time, you're asking somebody to pay for less than what they're getting, from Raw and SmackDown every week. So even if it's just perceived to be less, even if it just seems like it's low budget or whatever. So the point is, even though AEW's got the professional look and everything, and for 3 years in, whatever it is, 4 years in, whatever, they're moving along reasonably well, but you can't just expect people to just keep, you can't expect people to come out of the woodwork and care when they're not even interested in what used to be the only game in town anymore. And then you've also got the fact that, like you guys were talking about with the oversaturation and the limited touring, for a while they were only kind of going around like sort of the right side of the country, and how many times can they run Chicago, to Jargo's point, and how many times, and then don't forget, there's one thing people always conveniently forget when they're talking about AEW struggles. When they first debuted and they were kind of getting a little bit of traction and some buzz, and they were providing a little something different, regardless of whether it was better, worse, the same or whatever, that little thing called a pandemic hit and crippled any momentum that they could have had, right? Like, if you were tuning into AEW on a weekly basis and then you tuned in to see Daly's place with the guys from Dark in the audience clapping, how many times are you going to keep tuning in to watch that? Like, it got sad those couple of years when people are wrestling in empty buildings. And I say this all the time. The WWE had a chance to prove that they do make movies, pal, and all they did was have matches in an empty building. So they exposed themselves as frauds. They're not bigger than wrestling. They're not entertainers. They're not storytellers. They're a wrestling company, and they can't even do that right because all they did was have matches in empty buildings. So that turned a lot of people off of wrestling for those couple of years because it got weird and sad, right? So then when everything kind of comes back, how many people were just like never going to come back anyway? Like, I'm never even going to check back in on AEW again. And then they switched channels. They got booted off of TNT. There's so many things that have happened to AEW to sort of like, stunt their growth that they could have naturally had, like a progression that could have been building, and maybe they didn't know how to surmount those obstacles. They did plenty of things to shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, there's just all kind of things, but I think a lot of people that are AEW naysayers just really like to simplify things, like oversimplify the facts, and they also like to conveniently leave out certain facts, like I've stated.
Well, it's like, Rick, we were talking about when I was down there. New Japan is a great example too. All the momentum in the world that New Japan had going, and then the pandemic hit, and now I think I've seen like 3, maybe 4 people online talking about the G1, and it was everywhere before the pandemic hit.
You're right. We were talking about it just 1 week ago. We went and had an awesome burger just down the street from where broadcasting at here, and we were talking about how hot New Japan was. Everybody was jumping on with it. Hell, Jargo had his own show with it. That was coming on. You guys, were rocking and rolling with it. It was everywhere. And now you don't get hardly a mention of it, especially even at the G1 since the shutdown. They had all that momentum. They were going to tour over here. They were going to open their own office over here, right? Didn't we have New Japan, USA, or whatever?
New Japan Strong.
Strong. Yep. All of
and it's still going. It's just nobody knows about it.
Right.
So I didn't even know it was still around.
And it's a sort of an inferior version, because if you like, Jargo will know, if you want New Japan, you want New Japan. You want those guys. You don't want all the indie white dudes that the other companies didn't want. That's not what you want when you're expecting to see New Japan. But the pandemic crippled them too, from, everything they were doing, to the point now when they would send guys, to represent them, they're sending the guys that they can afford to lose. Like, they're sending the Satoshi Kojimas. They're sending, the Yuji Nagatas and the Minoru Suzuki's and stuff. They're not going to give you the Okadas and the Naitos and they're not going to do that because they can't afford to lose those stars too. So the pandemic was just very, very hard for wrestling as a business, for everybody really. But, we're talking about wrestling here, and that, I don't know. So AEW does have some work to do. But the good news is that they're owned by a guy that basically, for all intents and purposes, has bottomless pockets. So as long as he wants this to go on, it will go on. Whereas now, if the WWE has now been supposedly purchased and they're finalizing that deal or whatever. Like, and I keep saying this, it's like a possibility, however slight, however infinitesimal possibility, but there's a non-zero possibility that if they decide that the WWE isn't worth it, they can close it and it'll be gone forever, which didn't used to be the case. Now, will it happen? Probably not, but it's a possibility now because it's no longer like a family-owned business. So, you know, if they decide they want to close it, they can close it. And AEW is a little bit different now. As long as Tony Khan is privately owning it, he can just keep running it however he wants. So there's that aspect too.
Well, I think everything you laid out, that it was perfect. I never really thought about it. It was, you know, it's so easy to say, well, why don't they do this? Why haven't they achieved, you know, hit this level of success? And you're right, the hurdles, the mountains that have been put in their way. Thankfully, as you said, you know, they've got, you know, not pockets, Orange Cassidy, the champion, they've got pockets backstage and Tony Khan that can keep them afloat through anything. I would say that, you know, overall, though, it's frustrating, especially, you know, what I do in my daily life in work in marketing and all that, and to see where even AEW themselves, Tony Khan himself, is just like us. We're inside that bubble where he just assumes that, you know, people are going to know about, you know, All Elite Wrestling, that they're going to know about all the, you know, with Forbidden Door. You know, they just run out these individuals from Japan, and a lot of us have no idea who these people are or why we should be excited about anything. And in AEW, you get the sense they're treating it as that's a me problem as a fan because I don't know it, not a them problem because they didn't promote somebody properly.
A great example is what we saw last week with Kota Ibushi. Kota Ibushi comes walking out on AEW TV, and they just expect everybody to know who Kota Ibushi is, his relationship with all of the elite, why they are the Golden Elite, why he's even there, and they don't tell you absolutely nothing. You could have ran a 3-minute video package about the formation of the Golden Elite and the reuniting of the Golden Lovers, a 3-minute video package that would have gotten people to actually understand why this was a big deal. Instead, they had a fat Ibushi come out and just punch people in the face a couple times. I mean, that was the introduction to Kota Ibushi. And then this week for the follow-up, oh wait, there wasn't a follow-up. There wasn't even a mention of the Elite on this show.
That's right.
That's right. A few mentions of them here and there, but nothing of significance.
Well, I mean, they just won Blood and Guts last week. Like, where's the backstage vignette? Where's you know, Kenny like saying, okay, so now what's next? Or is he going after Takeshita? Is he going after the Don Callis thing? Is Ibushi going to be sticking around? What are the Hung Bucks doing? How do the Hung Bucks even feel about Ibushi being there? Because let's face it, the Young Bucks were never that accepting of Kota Ibushi to begin with in New Japan Pro Wrestling and that relationship that he had going on with Kenny. Like, there's so many angles. There's so many things they could have done, and instead they did nothing. Instead, they gave you a main event match with the Best Friends. The Best Friends were in the main event. And then you had AR Fox and Orange Cassidy as the opening match. The only two things that people are going to remember from a wrestling show are the opening match and the main event, and both of them were crap last night.
That's right again. Well, yeah. I mean, not only is everything he just said correct, but like we didn't even see, like, not one of those guys was there at all. Like the Blackpool Combat Club was there. Was any elite person even on the show?
No, the only follow-up you got from Blood and Guts was Moxley beating the crap out of Orange Cassidy because he was pissed off about what happened last week. And like a 1-minute video package recapping Blood and Guts. That was it.
Yeah, weird. You know, meanwhile, on Collision, they're making very careful to follow up on things that they do every week. You know, so if you prefer a little bit more cohesion in your storytelling, but you still like the AEW flavor, maybe check that show out because they could use a few more viewers too. You know, but this is a Dynamite review.
We'll get to Dynamite there. I do got a news story that's popped up here. I was looking for some topics earlier this morning. I didn't see this one. It just came to my attention. Great opportunity, Vec, because you were talking about the potential now that, you know, at some point, if WWE is falling on hard times, it could go away. You know, a parent company can say, you know, this department's not working. We're just going to close the doors on it. Hulk Hogan recently in an interview said that he regrets that him and Vince McMahon didn't buy the UFC a long time ago. I'm just I don't know, should we just add this to the long list of BS that Hogan's given us? That he was going to be a major league, he was going to play in the major leagues, he was going to join Metallica, anything out there on the numbers, the stats that he has thrown out there over the years, the backside politics that he has kind of skewed in his favor. I got, a certain part of me, I don't think Hogan's lying here. I think this is just like the Seinfeld, George Costanza advice. If you believe it, it's not a lie. Mm-hmm. But I guess this is going back, and I never heard this. I've heard that Shane, was trying to talk Vince into potentially buying UFC back in the old school barbaric days when it was just, no weight classes, everybody whooping everybody's ass. But apparently here recently, now Hogan is sharing news that he was going to be involved in that deal.
Maybe sure Hogan's he was, brother.
Yeah, maybe Hogan's gonna, talk about how he dropped the elbow on Test off the Titantron too. Like, I don't. Yeah, he may just be confusing his role in all this. I don't know, but maybe he's privy to some backstage conversations that even Shane didn't know about. Who knows? Maybe they did. But yes, it is interesting how the turns have tabled, where the UFC has now bought WWE when WWE could have got him for a song. So, yep, that just, it's things like that when people try to put Vince McMahon over, that is why I take such pleasure in shooting them down and pointing out how every aspect of this man's life is a failure, except for the one thing that he stole from his dad and stole the talent from everybody else that was already made and established. Other than that, everything else failed.
Him owning that company, because really, when you look at the Attitude Era, you could even go up to 5 years and say the Attitude Era was 96 to 2001. Other than that, tell me what great wrestling Vince McMahon has put out. I'll wait. He's living off of a reputation from 25 years ago.
Well, 96 was TL Hopper, The Goon, Who. That was 96. That's Vince McMahon. It's other guys like Russo Ferrara or whatever that said, hey, let's try something else because this shit ain't cutting it, and everybody else agreed, but no one else wanted to say it before those guys pretty much. So, that's it. So, Vince gets the credit for stopping having ideas. Like, is that what we get? Is that what we give him the credit for? So, but anyway, yeah, the point is, there was a point in time when the UFC was not nearly as big as it is now, and it could have we could have seen a very different landscape in combat sports. But as it is now, the WWE has been purchased. So there you go.
Rick, I thought you were going to tell me about the other Hulk Hogan story that I'm aware of from this week. Did you know Hulk Hogan can actually become a worse person than Hulk Hogan already is? I didn't think it was possible either, and now he's engaged to a Scientologist. There you go.
I was going to guess the only way I think he could go any lower is if he got involved in human trafficking, but we'll go with the Scientology.
But now being a member of the Church of Scientology, brother, I'm going to be in the next Top Gun. Yeah, I'm going to beat up on Tom Cruise.
What
do they call their ratings when they grab the all my knowledge from anything with Scientology comes from South Park when they take your Beyond ratings or something like that. I
couldn't tell you. I'm glad to be ignorant on that subject. But
I was going to say, so is Hogan? Maybe he's the the reincarnated version of L. Ron Hubbard. That was the South Park episode. They thought it was Stan that the leader of the church had come back through. So maybe Hogan will be the new face. Scientology running wild, brother.
Well, he was going to be the new face, but plans changed at the last minute. They went with Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise said that doesn't work for me, brother.
Hogan missing out on the George Foreman grills, missing out on UFC, missing out on Metallica, now missing out on Scientology.
No prayers, vitamins. Love that.
There we go.
Hey, did Hulk Hogan have vitamins? I swear he had vitamins, didn't he?
Oh, I'm sure.
like Flintstones vitamins? Like, wasn't that like?
I'm sure they were just Flintstones vitamins repackaged with terrible people, So you had like, Ultimate Warrior was on the bottle, and Hulk Hogan was on the bottle.
Had to be Brutus Beefcake too.
Brutus was definitely on the bottle.
Beefcake vitamin. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had some vitamins, all right. So it almost got Vince sent to jail in the '90s, during the TL Hopper days and all that. So yeah, they were taking care of everybody back then. Well, gentlemen, let's jump into this week's episode of AEW All Elite Wrestling Dynamite. Of course, this is a week after the big Blood and Guts show. Jargo made mention not a whole lot of reference back there. They did tie a few things together, but he said not like we didn't get a whole lot of fallout from those big moments, the big payoffs that we saw at that event. Interesting, on the Blood Guts, where we actually jump into this week's episode. I was reading a report. What we did not get to see at home, that those in attendance got to see, was kind of a just like the Click in Madison Square Garden, a post-show little send-off where the Elite and Combat Club came together, shook hands, and said, this is it. This is the end of our feud. We're good to go. I guess they went even further in the back. I guess it was real emotional. They were all hanging out. They even signed one of the Bucks had everyone sign one of his sneakers for a little piece of memorabilia. Really struck me as they're going overboard here, saying, look, we can all play nice. This is a unified locker room. We're a brotherhood here. So I didn't know, maybe that was like a shot at what's happening at Collision in the Punk Clique as what they've got going on over at Dynamite. Am I overreading that, Vet, or is there something there?
I don't know if you're overreading it. All I know is that pretty much everybody that's involved with that main event last week is dead to me. They were before, but I'm just saying, like, that cements it even further in case there was a chance of them being resuscitated or whatever. But like the only person that's not necessarily dead to me is poor Wheeler Yuta, who's just been dragged into all this. And literally dragged by a chain and choked, but he's sort of the innocent bystander in all this, and even though he really probably doesn't have too much potential as a talent, I just still I don't hate him, but everybody else that's involved, all those guys on the Elite side, everybody in the Combat Club could basically eat a dick as far as I'm concerned. And this is exactly why, because they have no respect for any kind of business or whatever we're trying to accomplish here. You don't want to, like, even if the cameras are off, the cameras are never off. This isn't the, the 80s or even the 90s. And no one would have even saw that curtain call if that one guy didn't have some recording device that he wasn't fucking supposed to have then. But back then when they did stuff like that, they thought nobody would ever see it, right? So now everybody's got 4K cameras in their pocket. So nothing is not on TV anymore, just because it's not on the broadcast. So if you're out there in front of the people, you got a good chance that somebody's going to eventually see this stuff. And that is just, again, when you're actively trying to combat your haters, online, in this small niche bubble world that they all live in, and you've got half of them, if not more, just hating the fact that you exist, you're just giving them bullets for their guns by doing stuff like this. Because they're going to point this stuff out and they're going to drag you for it. And rightly so. I can't defend them when they do stuff like this. So, that's how I feel about it. What about you, Jargo?
I mean, I'm very much the same way. The stuff that happens backstage, I've done a really, really good job of getting away from. I just stop paying attention to it. And unless it happens on camera, I don't try to pay any attention to what's going on, because I'm all about the narrative, right? And I don't want that narrative spoiled. Kenny Omega made a reference to Kota Ibushi like a week before we got the announcement that Ibushi was going to be there, and it completely ruined the surprise, right? I think wrestling fans would be much better off to just pay attention to what is happening on the TV and stop worrying about the Bucks being marks for themselves backstage and, having people sign memorabilia so that we can hawk it later on, prowrestlingtees.com during some live meet and greet in a virtual world. They've always been doing that crap. I don't know. I just find it, if you watch it as a TV show and quit paying attention to all the backstage politics and all the backstage BS, you will be a much happier wrestling fan. That's kind of where I'm at with the whole situation at this point. The entire elite are not dead to me as of yet. I'm close vet, but I'm not quite all the way there. Never really had a whole lot of use for the Blackpool Combat Club, and I'm happy to see everybody move on from it. Somebody had made the comment in the chat that Moxley came out and beat up Orange Cassidy because of what happened at the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. So you just assume that everybody that was watching Dynamite watched the Ring of Honor pay-per-view because they didn't mention it at all during the broadcast. The entire thing went completely over my head. I just thought Moxley wanted to punch Orange Cassidy in the face, which I feel like we all kind of want to punch Orange Cassidy in the face. Moxley with the babyface turn for me last night on Dynamite.
I think it was even a little bit more confusing than that, as well as, they're not, commentary's not putting over the Ring of Honor event and really going into depth about what happened there, but they're making mention of Combat Club having issues with Pac. Pac's in the building. Why aren't we going after him in any way? No interaction there, but they're going after poor Orange Cassidy. So there is some confusion. They've got a lot of parts working. I like that, but you've got to make sure that you're relaying that to the audience so that they can keep up with it.
You can't cater to the 30,000 when you have 1 million people watching the show. That's always been the problem with AEW.
Hold on. That's the American way. Cater to the just the few percent and fuck the masses.
The vocal minority.
The truth.
Yep. Yes. All right. So let's jump into this week's episode. We got a full lineup here. Jargo, real quick on this. I think that you've talked about before, but are you a fan of them announcing the entire card, Jargo?
I'm fine with them announcing the entire card. Just don't announce the entire card for the next 6 shows all at the same time, so I can remember what is going to be on what card.
I don't know. See, I look at the card because they'll announce it a day or so early, and I'm like, all right, I'm already out. More than not, I'm turned off by most of what I'm going to see there, or I know to find or figure out where the usual segments are at, so I don't have to watch. I mean, it's not like back in the day where maybe you're teasing me with something I'm going to hang around for the show to watch this.
If you tell them you're going to have a good card, it's a good idea to tell them. If you tell them your main event is going to have the best friends, then you might want to keep that a secret. But if this is a sporting event, you need to tell me what's on the sporting event. The NFL doesn't surprise you with their schedule. Like, it doesn't, they don't have Patrick Mahomes come out and say, you know what, I'm not doing anything later. I'm not doing anything next Sunday. How about you and me have a football game? And then the NFL's like, we'll make it official. No, that doesn't happen. So I'm tired of people booking their own stuff. But, at the same time, like, if you're gonna lay it out like what you have, you better have some appetizing courses on this menu.
Well, I've often wondered, like at a WWE show, when they're like, "Oh, and that's going to be the main event later tonight." What was the planned main event? What were you planning on headlining this show with before somebody called somebody else a dick?
I just want one time for Adam Pearce to have to go up to Apollo Crews and say, "Sorry, kid, you got bumped. I got a better match." like, oh man, I should have seen that coming. But
I guess to make the sports comparison there, like in the NFL, if they come on and it's, the Bengals and Chiefs, and they're like, all right, the third quarter, the Bengals are just running fullback dives up the middle. I'm probably not going to watch the third quarter. Yeah. And I feel I get that a lot of times with, with some of these undercard announcements for these matches, but we do got a full card.
But will you watch the game if they tell you that Joe Burrow is going to cut a 15-minute promo in the middle of the fourth quarter?
I probably would stick around for that.
Okay.
All right, so we've got the show here. It's coming to us from the MVP Arena in Albany, New York. On the commentary, we've got Tony Schiavone, we've got Taz, and as always, Excalibur there at the booth. We're going to open things up here on this show. We have got the All Elite Wrestling International Championship on the line. Got Orange Cassidy, of course, the champion, defending against AR Fox. We get opened up with a little video package, a vignette highlighting the relationship between Darby Allin and AR Fox. I liked this piece. I thought it was well put together. You got a connection. You could feel, the real relationship between these two. AR Fox, incredible talent. I know, Ben regularly sings his praises here on the show. Probably one of the better athletes in the company. Unfortunately, up to this point, he's regularly just been used as like a filler in nonsense six-man tags. So we haven't really learned anything about him or get to know about him. Like I said, I liked this piece, but I was thinking the entire time, like, why haven't we been building him initially so that I care about him in this match, but especially because now we're going to shotgun a whole story with him during this episode.
Well, yeah. So how long has AR Fox been working at AEW? Like 2 years or longer? Darby Allin's also been working there. So he only decided to care about AR Fox this week or last week?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I remember this guy that let me live with him. I just remembered. Of course. Hey, can we put together a video package for him and give him a title shot? That would be great, guys. So now anybody that wants to have some backstory and some character introduction, they need Darby Allin, right? Like, he has to know who you are and care about you. Otherwise, we're not going to get a Nick Wayne, or we're not going to get an AR Fox on television getting matches. Only Darby Allin caring about you can get you a video package to introduce you to the fans. Yeah, this is a little too late. And, we've all known AR Fox since probably at least Lucha Underground. At least. But we've also seen he's just been kind of floating around. Ring of Honor here, a few AEW Dynamite six-mans every now and then. Again, nothing against the guy, but it's more on the company. It just seems weird that all of a sudden now, we get this. But you also need to feed somebody to the orange. So, it's good to give him a little bit of build-up before, he lays down for 1, 2, 3.
Jargo, what do you think about the vignette, the timing here?
I'm with Vet on all of it. Especially if you're going to introduce AR Fox and a guy who has been so influential on so many of these guys' careers. Can't you get somebody other than Darby too to like maybe throw in a couple of lines? Like maybe if you have 10 different talents putting over how great AR Fox is and how he's the best kept secret on the independent scene for years, then maybe people would care a little bit more. The problem that I see with AR Fox has always been just the personality, right? It's always been, wow, that guy is really, really good. What's his deal? And you never know. As long as I've been watching AR Fox, have you ever seen an AR Fox promo? Like on national TV? Because I can't think of one. What is the AR Fox personality? We saw more personality out of AR Fox at the end of this match than I think I've seen out of him in probably 5 years. And then Moxley came out and cut off his balls. I mean, that entire sequence with Moxley coming out, I feel like it just buried the AR Fox heel turn. And the one thing that actually made him interesting to me was now gone, because now I want to see Moxley squash Orange Cassidy for this belt. That's what I want to see.
See, the match itself, what we've come to expect with Orange. He's going out there. They tell the story inside of the match where Fox is working. Was he working the knee? Yeah, working the knee there of the champ, wearing him down. And of course,
working the one body part that hadn't been worked yet, right? Like that's the whole story with Orange Cassidy at this point. When is his body going to degrade to a point that he simply cannot defend this title anymore? And that's why, I'm fully for John Moxley, just squashing Orange Cassidy in 20 seconds. Just come out and tap the dude out, take his belt, and then Orange Cassidy can disappear for 3 months. I'd be fine with that.
Just have him start popping up in the back, just in a full body cast, because he's been just dismantled, systematically dismantled over all.
Weekend at Orange Cassidy's. You bet. Like instead of Weekend at Bernie's, we get Weekend at Orange Cassidy's.
Now that, when Jargo was talking about, could we pepper in some other people to really put over, the influence, how powerful AR has been inside of this business? Were they just did they just include Darby here because of what we saw, afterwards, after the match, AR takes the loss, frustration, he goes on the attack, lays the champ out. Even Taz mentions it on commentary. Even AR himself, maybe for a moment, was like, man, what did I just do? Like, I just lost control, And then you have Darby just sprinting out, pushing him into the back. What are you doing? That's not how we do things. You man up, you take the loss. Were they so focused on trying to tell that story so quick that they missed an opportunity to put together an even more powerful piece?
Well, they're always missing opportunities, so you just take your pick. Like, what would have been the best way to do this is if he does what he does out of frustration. If Darby runs out there immediately, it looks like this was a planned spot. So maybe you have a pre-tape where when he comes back, Darby comes up to him and says, hey, what was that? That way you can hear what they're actually saying. The way they did it, he's like, Darby's asking him questions. Like, what the hell are you doing? And AR Fox has no prepared lines, so he just stands there looking stupid the whole time. Right on camera, right on national TV, looks stupid while somebody's talking to him and he's just like, that's not the best look for him. So that kind of buried him a little bit. Not really his fault. I just think that whole thing was, they put it together wrong. Now, as far as it, to me, what it kind of looks like is going on here is that Darby is using his sort of like his status to start calling in some favors for friends of his. Like, hey, I don't ask for much, but, my buddy Nick Wayne, And then, hey, AR Fox has been here a while. Think it would be cool if we gave him a little bit of something or give him a little angle or whatever like that. Like, I think Darby's like trying to help some people out here. That's what it literally looks like. It looks like this stuff is only coming up because as a shoot, Darby's like trying to help out his friends. It's like, hey, wait a minute. I could ask for some things. I could have some friends get some stuff. So that's what it looks like to me. I don't know how you guys think about it, but I mean, I can't think of any other reason why suddenly you got Darby Allin cutting impassioned promos on video packages about two completely separate guys. And he's the only one. We don't have the 10 other guys.
Well, and the other thing, at least for me, right, is like you talk about Darby cashing in his cachet, right? Of like, I'm going to help get these guys over. Maybe Darby should get himself over first, because Darby, of all of the pillars, to me, is by far the weakest. He has the least character development. He's Sting's little buddy. It took Sting to even get Darby over to the point that he is. Darby's over. Darby's not over. Darby Allin could walk into a skate park in your hometown and you would think he was just some punk ass kid. Like, no, these guys are not over. I don't see it. I don't see it. And I don't understand why it's suddenly becoming Darby and friends. Is Darby starting his own faction? Are we going to get like Darby and his island of misfit toys? Like, I just, the whole thing is just falling flat to me because I don't care enough about Darby Allin to care enough about the people that Darby Allin likes and the people that Darby Allin wants you to like, because I don't like Darby.
Oh, come on, Jargo. This is the new people power. It's pillar power. He's using that influence that he's got inside the company to get his friends taken care of there. And hey, you don't do it the way Darby likes. He's going to let you hear about it.
But again, okay, in doing that, they have to be very careful because otherwise they're going to turn Darby heel. If this is just going to be Darby, just like, getting favors for all of his buddies, eventually that's going to turn Darby heel, especially if it ends up like this AR Fox thing last night.
Yeah, if they keep being transparent about it, it will. But I think, as far as the pillars thing, I'd much rather see Darby than Sammy or Jack Perry ever. And I think the crowd is much more behind him because he's never changed who he's supposed to be, especially multiple times like Sammy Guevara has. So I think they can get behind a Darby just because of what he represents and how unique he is. And I think people always gravitate to that. And I think they put Sting with him to ensure that people would feel that way about him. But I also think that if they had never put Sting with him, eventually he would have got there. He's a guy that they use as a utility player. Doesn't matter if he wins or loses, doesn't hurt him whatsoever. He's going to be somebody that people just want to see because of the things he does. The difference between Darby Allin and every other one of these wannabe daredevils that's on the show is that Darby Allin can work. He just chooses to do the things that he does. And I think that sort of like that puts him like a level above the other guys, even the other pillars, non MJF, but you know, it's his actual foundation that allows him to get away with what he does, and I think it shines through in the same way that people gravitated toward Daniel Bryan because they just saw him as like honest, you know, like he's one of us, we believe in him. That kind of thing. I think they see that in Darby, even though he's a totally different character. But to Jargo's point, you know, if it becomes way too obvious that we're only seeing these people we didn't want to see before and don't want to see now just because they're Darby's buddies, then that might get him some heat in the internet bubble. But for the people that are only watching the TV show, you know, it'll be harder for them to figure out what's going on, probably.
Well, I think it'd be a good device for, you know, anyone that's an adversary of Darby at some point to call it out on television. Be like, hey, look what's going on here. You're supposed to be the average Joe. You're the relatable one. You just mentioned that on the level of O'Brien, but no, you're just as bad as anybody else. You know, using
well, it should
your
be AR
status
Fox.
as one of the pillars. Yeah.
Right. It should be AR Fox. AR Fox should come out and basically be like, listen, dude, I've been doing this longer than you've been in the business. I don't need your charity. I can do this on my own. Right. Like it should be AR Fox with the buildup that they gave us last night.
Maybe they will.
We go backstage where Don Callis is with Chris Jericho. They're also joined by the lovely Renee Paquette. And this is Callis's. He's doing the formal offer there to get Jericho to become involved with the Don Callis family. And he's got gifts. He's bringing gifts. He's got the portrait there put together of those two from their days in the 90s with Bad News. He's got the gift. And Callis has also gone out of his way to get together and to put together a tag match that would feature Takeshita and Jericho against, and this is where they dropped the bombshell, Jericho's own, his posse, Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara. Jargo, your thoughts on the interaction here between Jericho and Callis?
I mean, I'm always down for an interaction between Don Callis and Chris Jericho because they're just two masters of their craft, right? They're really, really good at what they're doing. It felt a little too Jimmy Jacobs for me. Like it felt like this was kind of a combination of everything that we've seen out of Chris Jericho's career over the course of the last like 10 years and like a minute and a half kind of backstage segment. Even like the Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho art thing that they did, the Don Callis, Kenny Omega art thing they did. Like there was a lot of callbacks here that I'm not sure a lot of people necessarily caught on to, but I'm down for it because I'm kind of over the whole Jericho Appreciation Society. I like Jericho more as a heel than I do as a babyface. And I think him and Don Callis, the chemistry those two guys have together is absolutely fantastic. And I would love to see it more on screen. I just feel like this whole Don Callis family thing came out of nowhere and we jumped immediately to like chapter 4 of the novel and we're never going to actually hear chapters 1, 2, and 3. Like I think there's a lot of really, really good potential here, but so far I'm still kind of holding my breath. What do you think, Bet?
I think it's a huge whiplash to have Chris Jericho be ridiculous for like the past year and a half, like a cartoon character, like no one would ever act. And now he's playing the straight man to Don Callis's foolishness, where he's just quietly sitting there, like, you know, like very, very one word response, very silent, very, when he's been peacocking for this whole time and just the fact that we're talking about something called the Jericho Appreciation Society. And now he's just going to be like a regular person, just the straight man to all this. that's a little bit jarring, and it's kind of one of the things that it makes it hard to consistently like just buy into all the stuff that they're doing. So I haven't liked anything Chris Jericho's done for like 5 years, and this is no different.
Well, while we're on this topic, and I'm just going to tie it in, we'll skip ahead a little bit in the show here because we do have a follow-up to this segment here where the Appreciation Society, they kind of confront Jericho on this, and they're not too happy about it. And I think what turned me off the interaction here is that it's Anna Jay is the one that lays down the law, and saying that they've always appreciated Jericho, but now he's showing that maybe he's never appreciated them. And Jesus Christ, do we need pregnant fucking Tay Mello on television, especially there right in the forefront? I mean, she is dressed like somebody at the flea market with the half cut off shirt with a big ass belly hanging out there. Just the visual there immediately turned me off to this thing. But
the one for me,
go ahead, Jargo.
What's going on with Sammy Guevara? Because it seemed like they were like turning Sammy Guevara babyface again. Then they put him in a tag team in the blind eliminator. He's not happy about it. And now all of a sudden, him and Garcia are buddy, and they're going to keep tagging together. And now Jericho's the one that's on the out. So how are we even supposed to feel about Sammy Guevara? How does he even feel about any of this? Like, just none of it makes any kind of logical sense.
Oh, I don't have an answer for that question.
Just anything. Your take on the whole interaction here, Jericho not showing the appreciation for his posse.
Yeah, just take everything I said about the previous segment. I haven't liked anything Jericho's done in the past 5 years, and none of this is any different. I don't care. I don't care about bad actors doing bad acting and trying to make me think that anybody on the planet Earth would ever act like this for 5 seconds. And I really don't care about that baby getting screen time already. All right, put that thing away.
Yeah, I thought one of the true benefits for all of us when she announced she was pregnant that she would be going away, but apparently that's not the case. We got to get screen time for everybody there. Again, to me, you have her involved with this stuff. She can't be involved in any payoffs, and there's nothing to look forward to her with. Let her just go enjoy the pregnancy and worry about becoming a mother and all of that stuff. We don't need her on television. We do transition. We have we remain backstage. Claudio, he's got a message for all the kids at home. You don't play with fire. And he's got an even more important message, a public service announcement for the kids around AEW. You don't mess with the Blackpool Combat Club. He starts to go in on Pac, and Moxley kind of interrupts him. And, just throws out the warning there that anyone that crosses the Blackpool Combat Club is going to end up in a pool of blood. Vet, your thoughts here on the gang throwing out the threats to everybody?
Well, as long as we're giving safety messages, I got one for Claudio. Don't eat ring posts. But anyway, this is yawn. Basically, is my review of this.
If anything, I wanted to see Moxley pissed off at Blackpool Combat Club. Like, you guys lost us that match last week, right? There was no mention of any of that.
Yeah, again, it's just you lose in a high stakes match in a big program like that, and no, we're just going to roll on. We just move on. Now we'll just start beating.
Speaking of that, what were the stakes again? Oh.
Steaks are better than ring post.
Mm-hmm.
Tastes better,
even if they're $2.
Yeah. We head back out to the arena where Tony Schiavone introduces the FTW champion Jack Perry. Perry coming out. He's got the I Beat Hooks t-shirt on. He's got the orange track shorts. He's out there to say, he promised, he vowed to the AEW audience, the fans, that he was going to win a championship, but he by no means meant that piece of crap relic from ECW, the FTW championship. This is going to kind of, just buries that group of individuals, what they meant to the business, and that prompts Jerry Lynn to hit the ring, and he's ready for a fight. He's looking to kick somebody's ass. I was liking the fire here from Perry a little bit. Maybe he's found a voice, a groove. But as this thing progressed, and he had to kind of carry himself and work through a segment here, and he just continues to expose himself that I don't know if he's ready for this sort of level. Jargo.
I like this better than Jungle Boy. I'll say that. I'm enjoying Jack Perry as a heel more than I thought that I would. Especially the match that he had against Hook where he won the FTW championship, because he's slowed down his style. He's not doing all the flippy stuff to get himself cheered by the crowd. I love the Beethoven's Fifth entrance music with absolutely no Tron. Like, there's a lot of good things that are going for Jack Perry right now. Unfortunately, he's Jack Perry. And inevitably, that's going to be the problem here. I mean, this persona, if he can work it right, he could become somebody like a Christian Cage. But are we forgetting the fact that, like, this is exactly what Christian Cage told him? Like, shouldn't he be like kissing Christian's ass to get back with Christian Cage at this point? I mean, just the incoherence of the booking.
Or at least Christian trying to leach back on. Like, this is what
right,
I've been
like,
trying to get
I told
out
you.
of you.
Good job, Jack. I told you this is what you needed to do. Like, who was driving the car when Jack like buried the boots and everything? Like, there's all kinds of weird stuff going on here. And then they bring out Jerry Lynn. And I love me some Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn was my favorite wrestler for a period of time back there in the 1990s. I have no desire to see Jerry Lynn wrestle in 2023, let alone to lose a match to Jack Perry. Like, it's just because I don't feel like there's the nostalgia for Jerry Lynn. Like, if this was Rob Van Dam, maybe people would feel differently about it. But it's like, Jerry Lynn was never over enough with a mainstream audience for anybody to care about Jack Perry beating up Jerry Lynn. It seems like, oh, what can we do for Jack this next couple of weeks? And unless this is leading to like Rob Van Dam versus Jack Perry at like All Out at Wembley. I mean, if that's the buildup for it, then great, but it's kind of pulling teeth to get there.
Real quick, bet before I kick it over to you, over in the chat, they're talking about it. Frank's Pickleball will hit it twice on this. I get they're trying, this is going to be fun. We're going to put him in the shorts. We'll give him a piece of crap put together t-shirt that says IP Hook. I mean, if you're going to come out as Jack Perry, you got the Hollywood good looks. You got the tie-in. Why isn't he dressed way better than everyone else? Nice suit where, he is on another level than everyone. We're just talking about Anna Jay. They're together. Put them together on screen. Make people hate him even more to have that. That's his piece. I complete miss there again on it, but vet your thoughts on the promo itself, the interaction, and overall where we're going here with the no longer Jungle Boy, Mr. Jack Perry.
Well, I'm just over here laughing because Jargo was saying literally everything I would have said if I had gone first. So that thank you for taking care of that for me. And then I'll just also add that as far as the Anna Jay thing, I think Jungle Boy smartly doesn't want it. This is not a slight on her as a human being, but as a performer, I think Jack Perry doesn't want any of that stink anywhere near him because he's got a chance. Right? So maybe just keep that back there with the rest of the fucking, marks and the JS. So that's probably that. The reason why he's not dressed to the nines this week is because he's mocking Hook and the way Hook dresses. So that's why, I'm sure those leather pants he wore last week cost more than Frank's pickle barrel asses, his whole life. As far
I never remember Flair coming out dressing like a commoner just to try to get under the skin of Dusty or anything like that. It's always got to be on that other level. I understand where they were coming from.
Well, he ain't no Ric Flair. He ain't no Ric Flair. So
he ain't even David Flair.
He's not even David Flair. But although he did end up buried in a desert, so they do have that in common at least. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. This is the thing that I didn't like. What was that weird little thing where they show like Hook in the subway with the title, and then the subway goes by, and then he doesn't have the title? So what am I supposed to believe, that Hook cooperated in like some sort of cinematic shoot for Jack Perry to show him losing the titles? Like,
clearly he's friends with Darby Allin. That's what's going on here.
that's what it is. I knew it. Very artistic. You know, that's how.
I was going to say, it was one of those dark side of the ring things where it was an actor portraying him.
Yeah,
so it wasn't the actual Hook.
The reenactment of Hook. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, with the
I'm
actors on strike, they're slumming it all the way down to the AEW level at this point.
Beautiful.
Yes. Let's roll through here. We get Britt Baker backstage with an interview. She's just kind of hyping up her match tonight against Valkyrie. We do have back in the ring. Let's get to the next match here real quick. We got the Bastard Pac. He is taking on Gravity, the one time that the man we knew that was the individual who defied Gravity, formerly known as Neville, Mr. Pac, taking on Gravity here. I'll let you jump in on this one. Yes.
The man that Gravity forgot. What a name. And how far we have fallen. You see what I did there with the Gravity thing? So, you can't convince me that this match was booked for any other reason than Pac has a battle with Gravity, right? Like, that's the only reason that this even happened. It's lucky there was a wrestler named Gravity. But he's cool. He comes out with the fucking astronaut suit with a little Mexican flag on it. He got a great space program down there. And
is he Bandito's little brother?
Maybe. I don't know. Who this guy is.
Yes. That's literally the only thing that anybody knows about Gravity is that he's Bandito's little brother. How much do we know about Bandito? Nothing. But we know that he has a little brother.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So, I love it. It's great. He's got the gear. He's got the mask that looks like an astronaut helmet, kind of. So he's over with me. I didn't really pay that close attention to the match because I saw how long it was, and I was like, So I can't really comment too much on the work, but hey, he came out and did the slow moonwalk, so he's over with me. Book him.
Like it. The finish of this match, kind of brutal. He hits him with the what they dubbed it, the avalanche brainbuster off the top, man. It looked like a bad fall there for Gravity. Then Pac gets him to tap out there. Pac picking up the win. We go backstage. A lot of backstage stuff going on this episode, but we have got the winners of the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament. Of course, the AEW All Elite Wrestling World Champion MJF and Adam Cole. They are getting geared up. They're going to get a shot this Saturday against FTR for the tag team championships. MJF going right in and taking the shots at the champs about their looks, about their style. Always talk about their kids and their wives. All of this. I enjoyed that part of it, and then they just cheesied it. They hammed it up way too much here with. Man, we really are friends. And I genuinely mean it. I don't know.
Ham and cheese, RBV?
Yeah, baby, yeah. That's how bad it was. Cheesy and hammy, baby. Chunks of it. Your thoughts on the interaction and the ass kissing or the, I don't know, playing with each other's balls there, tickling each other's balls there between MJF and Adam Cole. Yeah,
I don't like it. But it's fine. I mean, normally I'll watch anything MJF does, but I'll be happy when this is over. It's not even the first time they've done something like this. It's not even the first time they did something like this with MJF. It's just I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the repetition, even beyond the ham and cheese. And I would like what I would like to see. The only logical outcome for this whole thing. Not that it's any logic, but what I'd like to see the most out of it is that they both try to double cross each other catch each other, double crossing each other, because we know somebody's turning, right? But it's better. You can't have either one of them You can't have Adam Cole legitimately believe that MJF was his friend, and vice versa. You can't have MJF believe that Adam Cole genuinely liked him as a friend either. So they got to both try to turn on each other at the same time, catch each other, be like, you motherfucker, and then whatever happens, and then they have their title match like they were gonna have. But if they try to get me to buy like a one-way turn from either of these guys, it's gonna fall flat.
I'll say if one of them actually is buying this and they just go with one turning on the other, I mean that's gonna look whoever is on the short end of the stick like the biggest moron inside this business.
Yep.
Like if either of you have been watching each other's, the pro wrestling for the last 5 years, following each other at all, even if it was Cole and NXT or anything MJF has been involved in. It just would be terrible. I love the idea that they both try to screw each other over and they both get caught at the same time there. Jargo, what about Roddy's involvement in this? I think Jargo might be answering somebody.
I think Roddy is off screen telling him what he's probably stooging off the creative plans.
It seems that there's currently some weird stuff going on with the Will Ospreay on Instagram. The wife was showing me. So as far as this MJF Adam Cole thing, I've been against it since the very beginning because I said one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to turn Adam Cole heel or you're going to turn MJF babyface. Worst case scenario, you're going to do both of those things. And I think we've kind of seen how this is playing out. I do think somebody's going to turn, and I think it's going to be Roderick Strong. I think Roderick Strong is going to betray Adam Cole, and he's going to end up hooking up with MJF. It seems to me like that's the direction that everything is going here. The thing that I really dislike about it, as our good friend Al Snow told us once upon a time, never make the babyface look stupid. And that's exactly what they're doing. The Adam Cole is going to look like an absolute moron coming out of this thing, not seeing what's coming. The one thing I didn't understand was MJF saying, I'm going to give you a rematch for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Why on earth would he volunteer that information? On no level does that make any kind of logical sense to me, why the dirty chicken shit champion would just be like, you know what? I like you, bro. I'm going to give you a championship shot to a guy that he is pretty sure can beat him. Like, none of it makes any kind of sense to me. The only thing that makes any sense is Roddy is going to turn on Adam Cole, and then we end up with Adam Cole versus Roderick Strong in like the fourth different company doing the same story that we've seen 4 different times. Does nothing for me.
And that doesn't make sense either. Oh, I love you, bro. I love you too, man. I'm going to turn on you. No, it just that friends don't really actually do that.
It seems more to me like, oh, you want to be friends with Max? You're just going to desert me while, I'm over here taking care of this stuff and you're off dicking around with Max, this guy that I told you from the very beginning that you couldn't trust. It just seems to me like it's set up for Roddy to become Max's new stooge.
That's why I say the only way out that you can preserve all 3 of these guys' integrity is to have them both try and fail. Like, oh, I thought I was going to catch you. I was fooling you the whole time. And that way everybody stays where they're at. And then you can just have your championship rematch. It's the only way that they don't look stupid is if they remain in place. So we'll see if they do it. But, I don't have high hopes on it.
Jargo, what do you think about the FTR, their reply there? Is that the same one that they showed on last week's Collision? I've seen over the chat they're saying it's pretty much the same promo. I didn't get to see that one.
It's not the same promo. It's just exactly the same words that they used on the Collision promo. It's like the same exact promo that FTR cuts regardless of who they're facing and what's going on. Like, I love me some FTR inside of the ring, but the promos and the creative programs have all become very much just the same recycled bullshit over and over and over and over. And they're better as heels anyway.
I don't know.
Hey, Jargo, did you catch that? How did you catch how when Dax was cutting his promo, he was talking from both like a standpoint of the future and as if he had already heard the other promo. Like he kept changing tenses, like, you're probably going to make fun of my accent. But then he'll say something like, yeah, I do love my family. Like he's responding directly. So he can't make up his mind whether his promo's taking place in the past or in the present. So it's like that tipped his hand, in case anybody was paying close attention to that too, exposed him.
I did like that at the end. He's like, and if you mention my daughter or my wife, I'm going to knock your teeth down your throat. That popped me there at the end because he's called out. So that it either speaks to he knew the same old shtick that MJF is going to go at him with, or he knows that he repeats himself and everybody can call his promos.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. It looked like he got exposed though because he kept mixing up his tenses. So but whatever. That's what you get from a Dax promo. Dax.
Back in the ring, we get Darby Allin. He's being accompanied ringside by Nick Wayne, and he is taking on from the Embassy Swerve Strickland, who's got Prince Nana out there with him. Dominant match here. Usually what we get out of the Darby matches is the true underdog who's going to have to kind of fight back from this one. Swerve really taking it to him. I think the post-match is really where we get the payoff, where we get once again the emergence of the reemergence of AR Fox, and we get the full turn here as it appears that he has joined the Embassy after attacking Darby and Wayne. A lot of people were talking about that, the promo abilities of AR Fox, just the body language here, man. There was a lot of character, and you could really feel something from him just in this post-match angle. Jargo.
They're going to stick him with the Embassy, which means I won't see it because I don't watch Ring of Honor. Like, they can't expect me to care about what's going on in Ring of Honor when Ring of Honor is a C show that's behind a paywall. I'm not watching that crap. So best of luck to AR Fox over on, your little Ring of Honor promotion. That's pretty much where I'm at. Like the whole Embassy thing, like who cares? Rick, pop quiz, who all is in the Embassy?
The Embassy, we have got the foreign monsters. I can't remember their names. We got Brian Cage. Is Big Bob or Big Bill, whatever the hell his name is now, is he in there? Because I see him and Cage are going to be in this tag team battle royal coming up this Friday. Then we've got Nana right now, and now we've got AR Fox, and apparently Swerve is now part of that. That is so. Any excitement
at least half the faction you can't even name. I mean, that tells you how great it is.
I can visualize them. I just don't know all their names. So yes, and I'm putting the puzzle together on them. You're right, but then is there any excitement maybe behind Swerve and AR becoming a tag team that could actually get a shine and opportunity on Collision or Dynamite?
I don't know. No.
Or are we going to forget that this even happened in 2 weeks?
Do you guys, let me ask a question to each of you. It's a yes or no answer, okay? So you don't have to take a long time. It's either yes or it's no. RBV, you first. Is there money on Swerve Strickland?
Yes.
Jargo?
Yes.
Okay. I kind of agree. So can we ever just stop burying him amongst a bunch of nobodies who have no money written on them? It happens no, you cannot. He must be buried. You're going to put him with Hit Row. You're going to put him with the Mogul Embassy. You're going to put it, or it was just the Mogul affiliates when it was just him, and he's got randos with him, bodyguards, both of which are not there now. So then he's got to go over to the Embassy with Nana and just get lost in that shuffle and seem less important than he could be. I see him as a singles that can do something and can be interesting. How far he can go is yet to be determined, but I feel like he can run with the ball as far as they'll let him, as well as anybody else in modern wrestling. Like as far as I'm concerned, why not Swerve is my point. But if you keep drowning him if you keep putting all these albatrosses around his neck, then we're never even going to get that. So no, I'm not interested in seeing him with AR Fox. I'm not interested in seeing him with anybody. I just want Swerve Strickland to be his own man on an island, and then we'll see what he can do.
if we're going to team up Swerve with anybody, at least put him with people that make him feel more important, right? Like putting Swerve in the embassy actually devalues Swerve, right? I very much feel the same way Vet does. If you want to do something with Swerve with like some kind of a group of people, just put him with Scorpio Sky. Because I mean, at least then you have two guys that have a very, very similar story, that have a very similar presentation that I think could play off of each other well. But just sticking him with a bunch of random people, no, it's not going to work. And it devalues the talent that you do have.
I think their biggest missed opportunities with Swerve is the crossover. You know, we talk about growing the bubble, growing your audience. I mean, he could reach you an entirely new fan base, a completely new demographic, and just cross over to different genres for you. But
apparently he's got an album either out or coming out, and I don't know what it's called or if it's out or where to get it. I'm sure I could find it if I really look, but that's my point. Like, they should be telling me that. I shouldn't have to ask that.
It's called Fight Forever 2, and it'll be out in 5 years.
Yes.
We've got a ladies match coming up here. Britt Baker, Taya Valkyrie going at it, hooking up inside the ring here. I think one of the headlines of news that really jumped out to me during this match here, chants or signs, requesting book the women's division better here. But I'll let you talk about this match and the division itself. Would you say that these are two of the top names inside of this division?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Britt Baker's been there since day one, and Taya Valkyrie's got a name. So you got that going for you. This match did not feel special. It just felt like it was out of nowhere. You're carrying over the booking of this match from your other shows. So in case you're one of those people that only watches Dynamite, you're not really sure exactly how it came about or whatever. But that's fine. It'd be a pleasant surprise if you didn't know it was coming, I guess, until the bell rang, and then you actually watched it, and then the pleasantries were over. We'll dispense with the pleasantries. Not good. Yeah. So, I mean, as far as the women's division getting booked better, well, shit. If it was that easy, then we wouldn't be having any of the conversations we're having. So, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of women on this show I didn't see, just like a lot of other talent I didn't see. You got your women's champion nowhere to be found, right? Unless I missed her. Did I blink and miss Toni Storm?
No? None of the Outcast.
Kind of feel like they should at least make an appearance. At least just show their face. So there's a lot of that. I mean, you have to first identify who you think are your stars. You guys were talking about stars, right? Earlier in the show before I hopped on. You have to identify who those guys are going to be for you, who they believe they are. Then you have to make sure that those people are presented as stars to everybody watching. And then everybody else that is on the undercard has the opportunity to impress you, but they're going to be working with those stars. So the point is, you got to feature those people that you want to make that money with. You clearly thought enough of Toni Storm to put the belt on her, but not enough for her to not miss a Dynamite. So I don't like it. Book the women's division better.
I think even to notice too that with Jade Cargill now taking some time away from the ring, or as she said on Twitter, it feels so good to step outside the bubble. I don't know what the hell that meant, but she's only been catered to, and she's only been in the business for
Jade, let me just address that real quick, okay? I just want everybody to understand. Jade Cargill, when she says stuff like that on Twitter, is working, okay? She knows what she's doing. She's trying to get a rise out of people like you or any of the fans who talk shit about her and make her think that she's trying to be a heel. Why they didn't treat her as much like a heel as they could have is anybody's guess, but she's trying to do it
that
right.
Bring their daughters to work and kiss them at ringside and they have the elaborate
they should have put the kibosh on that, but I'm just saying. She probably thought bringing her kid would get her heat. I don't know. From all the guys that wanted to bang her. I don't know what she was thinking, but I know when she's tweeting stuff like that, she's working. She's smart enough to know that. But Jargo, what about the women's division, man? What do you think?
You can book the women's division better if you want to. That's not going to change the quality of this match. I mean, I like Britt Baker and I like Taya Valkyrie. I like Hulk Hogan and I like Ric Flair. Guess what? Hogan and Flair didn't have chemistry in the ring together either. This match was an absolute train wreck. I think these are two of the better women inside of the company. I would keep them as far apart as possible.
After years of bashing him.
No, absolutely not. I'm just saying, just because he's a star, you take two big stars and you put them in the ring together, that doesn't mean that it's going to be good. And that's kind of what I feel like we ran into here last night. I think these are two of the bigger stars inside of the AEW women's division. It doesn't matter what the creative program is. It doesn't matter if you book them to go 5 minutes or if you book them to go 20 minutes. It's not going to make the match any better. They just have no chemistry together. These two women just do not work well together. I mean, at one point last night, Taya dropped Britt on her face. I just dropped her on her face. It was the whole match just looked god awful. So I would keep them as far apart as possible. It seemed to me that we are poising ourselves for a Jade Cargill return, because if you noticed last night, Britt called it the Brit Show.
Brit Show.
No, it's that bitch show, right? Like we know what the TBS stands for. So hopefully that means Jade's coming back fairly soon, because God, I miss her on my TV. I think there's a lot of talent inside of the AEW women's division that wants to be booked better. They just need to wrestle better so that they do get booked better, because at this point, the AEW women's division, I don't even want to see it on my TV, because every time I do, it's a 10-minute train wreck like Taya Valkyrie versus Britt Baker last night. And that's not anything against either one of them as talents. Just the two of them together did not work. Did not work at all. Just like Hogan and Flair didn't work.
Shout out here to my boy, one of our local minds, locker room leaders around the Cincy area, Mr. Kurt, that new one-legged bandit. Unfortunately, had his leg cut off, so we're hoping that he can get back up with his with leg piece here shortly. But shout out, thanks for joining us there, Kurt. Gentlemen, let's move on here. Main event time. We got a three-way tag match. Of course, as the vet said, main event time, and you're advertising the best friends. You got Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta. They're going to be taking on, representing the Blackpool Combat Club. You got Claudio and Moxley. And, of course, the third team here is the Lucha Brothers. I guess the match itself is what you'd expect. I mean, they were going everywhere, and it was chaotic, hard-hitting, big spots inside of the match. That real surprise with the outcome here. Lucha Brothers getting the win.
Nah. But I will say this. I work really hard for you guys, talking about the audience. I try to watch as much wrestling as I can so that I'm able to speak on a variety of subjects with you and be up on all the current talent and everything like that. So for the most part, I try to catch everything. But when I see the Chuck and Trent on my screen, if you think I'm watching 1 minute of this, you are out of your minds, and you don't know me.
I like that better than the best friends, just the Chuck, the Trent.
The Chuck, the Trent. I scrubbed to the finish. I didn't even actually watch the finish. I just saw Penta celebrating, and I was like, I guess they won, and that's good enough for me. And then I saw that there was some, post-match animosity, and because of who was involved, I said, I continue to not care, and I clicked the X in the corner. And that was a wrap on Dynamite for me, guys. So anything else that has to be said about this match will have to be said by either of you.
Yeah, you had on the finish there. Obviously, we know who's going to be taking the fall in this thing, but Penta gets the win on the Trent there, hitting with the fear factor for the pin. Jargo, your thoughts on this thing? I know you were kind of hot last night as we were going back and forth in the text watching this thing, and you're asking, this is what you give us for a main event.
Tonight's main event is Jon Moxley and 5 guys who never lived up to their potential, so Jon Moxley can't take a vacation. That's pretty much what we had going on inside of this match. Do you remember, Vet? I bet you do. Do you remember, if we go back in time, probably about 7 years or so, New Japan Pro Wrestling was trying to pick, do we want to go with Kenny Omega or do we want to go with Trent Beretta? That was a real conversation. Do you remember when Chuck Taylor was the fastest rising name on the independent wrestling scene? Do you remember Lucha Underground when everybody was like, wow, this Phoenix kid, he could be the next Rey Mysterio. And this Pentagon Junior guy, he's like, he could be La Parka, but cooler, right? Like there was all this great potential. And instead, we got what we had last night. Oh, yeah, and Cesaro. That dude's going to be a world champion one day. Yeah, and Ring of fucking Honor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, there was so much potential inside of this match. Unfortunately, it's 2023, and the only guy that ever got himself over to any extent was Jon Moxley. I mean, this is what's wrong with the wrestling business. All these other guys, all 5 of these other guys, we thought were going to be main eventers for the next 10 to 15 years to come. And instead we got this last night. And I feel like that is just indicative of the entire problem inside of the professional wrestling business in 2023.
I can only disagree with you on the fact that I never thought any of these guys would be shit except for Pentagon. He's the only guy that I thought, wow, I could do something with Pentagon. Everyone else was a lost cause to me, even Moxley. Now, he's done very well for himself despite an extremely limited skill set. So he's overachieved beyond everyone's wildest dreams, and good for him. But like I said earlier, he's dead to me, so whatever. But yeah, but everything else you said, yes, it's crazy how this is what's happened with these guys.
Is there any rehabbing any of these guys? Like, is there anything that we could do at this point with it? Because I feel like there's been so much damage done to all of them that I don't even know what you do with these guys to try to make them relevant again inside of the AEW narrative.
Well, I will quote our mutual favorite wrestler of all time, Yoshihashi, and just say, everything can change in an instant. Okay, that's a joke for 2 people.
Some old episodes of Destino in order to get into Yoshi Bon Jovi.
Yoshi Bon Jovi, but no, that was talking about him falling on his face and making a t-shirt out of it. But in reality, the phrase itself is not wrong. You can grab any one of these guys and rehab them instantly if you knew how. Nobody knows how, so the answer to your question is no. But if you did know how, then yes, it's possible. Everybody's just that one conversational promo backstage away from somebody just grabbing them by the collar and being like, "What's wrong with you, man?" And that being the impetus for them to sort of get on a different path. So you could do that. The Pentagon looked like a star in Lucha Underground. Unfortunately, I guess he loves his brother and tag team with his brother very much. And they have both suffered because of that. Because they're just another couple of guys in a tag team in a company full of tag teams that people already don't care about, and which the division is not being managed correctly and never has. So, that was the Lucha Brothers were doom from the beginning, and not the good one with Butch Reed and Ron Simmons. I'm just talking about like the actual definition of the word doom. So, there went their star power. Trent and Chuck, never going to happen, brother. And it was Moxley and Claudio. Like, Claudio ate a ring post. He's a mark. Sorry.
Well, I was asking you guys earlier about it. Do you get excited when they give you the announcement, the full cards? We go off the air here in anticipation for next week's landmark 200th episode of Dynamite. Tony Khan shares an announcement through the commentary team. But it's going to be official. Jon Moxley versus Penta versus the Trent in an anything goes match.
No. No.
So that's how they.
I feel bad for Trent. I feel bad for Trent because I've seen Penta in those kind of matches, and I've seen Moxley in those kind of matches, and I know what they're going to do to each other inside of that match. How does Trent get himself stuck in there? Like, poor Trent.
Is Trent going to do his acai moonsault to the outside and land on something dangerous?
I mean, I think Trent's mom should just not bring him to the show next week.
I was going to say, just lock himself in the minivan for the
Ground
entire
his
duration of the
ass.
match.
Ground his ass, man. Ground his ass.
Or just use the minivan as a weapon. You just
To think Trent Barreto was almost the leader of the Bullet Club. My, how history would have been different.
Yeah, as we do get the announcement, they fade to black with the brawl going on. But yeah, gentlemen, coming up, hey, we're a month away, August 27th, from the Wembley show. Next week, the 200th episode. As you talked about earlier, Vet, I mean, all that they have overcome, and they are here at these big, milestones.
What's
for the
the
company.
hook? What's the hook for next week? The 200th episode. What is the big hook? What is your big main event for next week?
The Trent.
We'll tell you next Tuesday. AEW.
The Trent, baby. The Trent. Well, gentlemen, let's go ahead. Let's get out of here. I gotta get my ass to work. I got a little celebrating, a little hashtag RBV eats out. Today's National Chili Dog Day. It's right here in Cincinnati, baby. That's one of our big foodie holidays. I'm gonna give me some of that Cincinnati chili with the cheese, the onion, the mustard on there to celebrate the day. What kind of dogs do they do out there in California? Vet?
Any kind. I don't think we have a signature dog. We just eat anybody's dogs. Chili dog, regular dog.
Just a bunch of dog gobblers out there.
California State Fair corn dogs. You probably can't get better in the U.S.
I mean, I feel like there's a terrible Asian San Francisco joke here that I could throw in, but I will refrain.
Yes, refrain, please. But yeah, got a little of everything.
Yes, sir. Vet.
Yes.
How about your do what you do when you get out of these things here, man?
Oh yeah, add Opinion Haver on all your favorite social media platforms, gaming platforms, rotating platforms, color forms, anything with a forum. You can find me at Opinion Haver. Check out every show on HMG. Check out every show on the PWC. Check out everything, and you'll probably run into me whether you want to or not. Some people probably groaned when I showed up here, so that's fine. But I couldn't miss a show with my man Jargo and my homie RBV, so I was gonna sit in with you guys and hang out, even if I didn't watch Dynamite. I was gonna be here. So do that, and then also check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers every Friday with a live Q&A, except when they're not there. Last week they had Matt Stryker on, so that was cool. He popped in and they had a good interview there. It's all available on YouTube for free, so go check out that channel and subscribe to it if you haven't. And check out everything Stevie Richards is doing. Stevie Richards Fitness is off the hook. Stevie Richards Wrestling Analysis, already over 7,000 subscribers in just a short time. Like, just goes to show you, man. People want to see wrestlers talk wrestling. Sorry, that's just the way it is. And his channel boom and what he's doing is so unique in the space, and everybody's gravitating to it. He just put up content on his Patreon where he looked at a match between God, I already forgot who it was. It was Dutch Mantel and I'm gonna kick myself. I can't remember, but that's on Patreon.
One way to find out.
That's right. Go to Patreon and check it out. And then the YouTube channel is totally different. He's got stuff. He's just put, why Brad Armstrong may be the most underrated wrestler of all time, and breaks down something with him and Paul Orndorff. So that's on YouTube. Separate content on Patreon and YouTube. Check out Stevie Richards. That's it for me.
Damn, that's some good stuff. Now, I intentionally had you go first, Vet, so that Jargo just couldn't steal all your tags. Where people
I was going to say, that's my gimmick, right? When people ask, how do you keep up with me? I tell people, don't keep up with me. I don't want to talk to you. Instead, go hang out with the Vet at Opinion Haver. That's what I do. If you want to follow me, if you want to follow me on social media, it's at Not Jargo, although I very rarely use social media anymore. So yeah, just keep up with at The Real RBV and at Opinion Haver, and of course the Hamin Media Group.
RBV Media now.
Oh, RBV Media now.
Yes.
Big shot.
Getting fancy. But yeah, I'd like to thank everybody out there. We miss Ben, when he's unable to make these shows, but he's out there making big things happen. It was awesome sitting down with you gentlemen to talk a little wrestling. This week's Dynamite and a little business of the business. Thanks to everybody that joined us in the chat, all the awesome comments, conversation that we had back and forth here. I'm sure Ben will be back, probably recorded one this morning for the Friday locker room. As Vet said, make sure that you're checking out all the content from the Hamin Media Group. It's National Chili Dog Day. Go out and get yourself something good to eat. And stay cool. Stay hydrated in this heat here. But that's going to do it this week. Light the fuse. We'll go ahead and sign this son of a bitch off.